Sup homies, I'm Celeste Dove, and welcome to my Mode Speaks. So, what is overgrazing, you might ask? Today, we're gonna be talking about it. Overgrazing refers to what happens when livestock feeds on a pasture or when wildlife grazes on a field to the point where there is no more vegetation left. When animals deplete the fully grown wildlife, they move on to underdeveloped plants without giving them enough time to fully mature. Like these. Wow. This can also happen in the wild when a particular group of animals have their natural travel patterns restricted. An example of this would be the deer at Yellowstone National Park. Before wolves were reintroduced, there was nothing to stop the overpopulation of deer. The valleys were stripped of their vegetation and the deer didn't allow it to regrow. Once the wolves were let in, the deer began to avoid places that they were easily hunted, like the valleys, and vegetation began to regrow and quadruple its size. Overgrazing has a powerful effect when it comes to natural environments, and the damage stretches further than the plot of land in which the animals graze. Stripping an area of vegetation also strips it of its water, accelerating the process of desertification in dry regions of the world. Desertification is a type of land degradation in which a relatively dry area of land becomes increasingly arid and typically loses its bodies of water, vegetation, and wildlife. Soil wouldn't hold the water or nutrients needed for plant life to take hold, meaning the entire plot becomes useless for most farming and wildlife animals. An example of where this has happened would be northern Mexico in the mid-1980s. Grazing stock like cattle, goats, sheep, and hogs increased from 22 million in the 1950s to 50 million in the 1980s. This caused severe desertification and erosion in the area. Some ways to prevent overgrazing on farms and in the wild are proper land assessments, where developers and potential farmers consider environmental factors of an area before establishing farmland. Responsible livestock management, so you avoid having too many animals in a small plot of land, and using different techniques like cycling livestock to benefit the farmland. And farming responsibly. Most overgrazing problems in farming are man-made. People tend to work for the best profit instead of the environment, so being responsible and taking nature into consideration when farming is important. Lastly, some ways to fix the problem would be making grazing plans for farms where there's a time for regrowth, building a series of padlocks on the grazing lands, and padlocks are small enclosures for selective grazing. Some say 6 to 8 padlocks are enough, but some top-tier farmers are saying 16 or more padlocks are needed for high-level performance. And lastly, releasing other wildlife to keep the population under control, just like the wolves being released in the Yellowstone National Park for the deer. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for coming to my Mode Speak / TED Talk / goodbye.